What is up? Woo! Christopher, how are you, sir?
You know, I'm beautifully feeling dry right now. It has gone into a full-on monsoon in Wisconsin right now.
Yeah, so in South Carolina, first off, I was dancing while that music was going on. I'm kind of winded. So we have been through a dry season in South Carolina. Like, it has not rained. And then July 4th, I was like, dude, the firemen are going to hate July 4th because it was dry as a bone, but it's been nothing but raining since then. So I've been praying for rain for my yard, but I didn't know I was going to get it like all at one time.
You got blessed. You're getting everything in a year. No, man, it's wild. As everyone can probably assume, we're in different areas. So I'm up in Wisconsin. Evan is down in South Carolina. Conveniently, though, our weather is mapping. Very, very similar things. We're under a flood state right now, but it's a Monday and we have a bunch of really, really fun things. I'd made a joke as we were coming into this that if you have to have a crucial conversation with your insurance agent based on all this rainfall, this could be a primer for you. But we got a ton of fun stuff to work through today. So
yes,
it's going to be dry.
Yes. So if you are watching live, I'd love to know, put in the chat. I would love to know where you're watching from, state and city. I would love to know that. And we're going to jump in today. So if you have read, because we're live on YouTube as well, Christopher. I don't know if you even knew that, but we're live on YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, you will not have access to this. But if you registered for this event, there are some PDFs on the website that you are at that have these documents. So you can go ahead and download those documents because we're going to go through these. And we probably don't have enough time to go through these thoroughly for an hour. We are working on putting a course together for this because, Christopher, when it comes to leadership, when it comes to leading people, leading a business, one of the things I just don't like is tough conversations because I want everybody to like me. And years ago, I had a supervisor of mine. He said, Evan, you're so great at having these tough conversations. And I'm like, am I? Like, you don't know what you don't know. And then I came to the salon and Aaron's like, hey, you're really good at these. And I'm like, dang it, I don't want to be good at these. I don't want to be good at these tough conversations. And so I actually sat down one day and I was like, okay, what are the things that makes the tough conversations easier? Because I've seen in my own life how I screwed up tough conversations in the past. And then traveling and coaching salons, I would hear of tough conversations and I'm like, okay, it's not hard. It's just having to stick through. And one of the things I've seen with tough conversations, and because there's other courses and podcasts and stuff about it, very few of them actually reflect on what can I do about this situation? Like, what can I take responsibility for? And so that was the key thing. I think that's the secret sauce when we go through this today. So Christopher, how are you with tough conversations?
Getting better every single day. So the part of it, and I love the feedback that you've gotten. I would say the part for me that I've gotten the most amount of feedback over the years was actually areas that I could improve on these. And you hit on to like what was the main pain point for me. I am an Enneagram type 3 with the wing of a helper though. And I think that people pleasing part of it, in having that be a part of my servant leadership side, what I've gotten feedback from in the past is I could have been more direct. And then also in some of the situations, I might have been personally too attached to the thing. So I've really done a lot of conscious work within the space. And again, the part that you said, Evan, that I couldn't agree more to is I think the moment that we understand that, okay, if we have to have the conversation, we likely have a responsibility in the matter. Now, is it massive or minor? That's to be known by the conversation. But that's been another thing that I've looked at is like, okay, what is my responsibility potentially in this before ever even starting the conversation? So yeah. I'm okay, but I'm getting better.
We all are. I mean, I think, with me, I just turned 40. Well, just didn't. I'm about to actually turn 41 in November. That kind of hurt. And being a male working in an industry that's, dominated by females, and we're hiring a lot of younger people. Yep. It's getting harder to have tough conversations because it's easier to have a tough conversation, I feel like, with, say, we're around the same age. Yep. And you're a male. So, we've had tough conversations, and there's that mutual respect and trust. Yep. So I don't ever think it gets easy. I think it's something that you always, like you just said, you always have to be a student of learning and learning about people. And that's what we're going to talk about today. When I watch TV, I'm always looking for like leadership or lessons when I watch TV. First off, we're not going to do this right now, but Owning Manhattan on Netflix is freaking gold. If you're in the salon world, you need to watch Owning Manhattan. It is incredible. We're going to do a podcast, probably a series. Probably going to do like 3 or 4 episodes on it. But that's on the side. That's a little Owning Manhattan plug, which I don't get anything off of it. I should, by how much money they sell those things for. But we're watching this TV show called Your Honor, and it's a really tough show to watch, by the way. But anyway, there's a scene where the lawyer comes in late, and the lawyer comes in late, and he says, you just know that the judge is about to rip through the lawyer. How disrespectful is that not to be on time? And so he tells him, it's like, hey, you're late. You want to explain yourself? I'm like, oh, he's about to chew him out. He said, sir, I'm sorry, I have prostate cancer and I have to go to the bathroom. And the judge said, hey, I'm so sorry. Thank you for telling me. You're good. So I think understanding people a little bit better gives us some insight on how to have these conversations. Because the reason a lot of these things are tough is because we don't have clarity around them. We don't know what they're thinking. So it makes it a lot tougher. So if you have your guideline, you can go ahead and pull it up. We're going to walk through this. The tough conversation guidelines, I made it very short and simple because, you can only remember so much, right? They say when someone's speaking, you can only remember about 10% of what they say. So anytime I go to a salon and I see somebody with a notebook and a pen or a pencil, I'm like, love it. A dull pencil is better than a sharp mind. So the first one is location. Location is so important because, especially at our last salon, and Christopher, I want to get your take on this. We had an office, and it was dark, no windows, and we had the refrigerator in there for the break room. So if we're having a tough conversation, there are people constantly interrupting, coming in, and so it just was not the best place. So find a space where you're not going to be interrupted and you can focus. And I think another thing is to make sure that you have enough time too. So Christopher, we've done this. Have you ever had a tough conversation with someone like between guests? You're like, oh, they got an hour break. I'm going to have this conversation whatever it was. Have you done that before?
I have scheduled them like that. Yes.
Yeah,
I no longer schedule them like that unless something is burning.
Yeah, and you never prepare enough time, so you're always going to need more time than what you really do. But where do you say in your company you have tough conversations? Because you have an office that is up a ladder, and
Yeah.
then like a door that's like this tall that you have to duck to go in. I've knocked my head on it several times.
Yep.
So I would imagine having a tough conversation up there and being like, well, now you got to climb down the ladder. I'll call it like the ladder of shame. It's like, won't.
Oh,
So,
you're so right. So we do have a fair amount of I would say, learning to challenging conversations. We do them up here, but the main reason that we do them, it is an area that gives us privacy. One of the things I love about it is that we have it set up with these really cool chairs, selling stuff when we don't sell the stuff. We all sit down on the ground together. I think being a little bit more grounded is a good thing. We sit next to a really big window. Those are the things that I love about it. The part that's so crucial though and clear, we don't know what's going to come up within this conversation. So one of them, like location, is also like taken into effect. Like, what's privacy here? And maybe, depending on what is the nature of the conversation. Sometimes, we will try and schedule before we're open. Typically, sometimes after we're closed. If it's a matter that we feel like we want to put fast attention to, but if we do have the opportunity, we do try and schedule them at a time when the salon is not packed and full, to also just let them know, like, hey, we're thinking of like emotional threshold here, and we're also thinking if we get to the top of that threshold, we want you to know that we've been as intentional as what we can be in setting this up together.
Yeah, it's just out of respect for others. So the first one is location. Choose a distraction-free environment. It's going to serve you. It's going to serve the other person well as well. Now, today we're talking about salon world. We're talking about employee-based or whatnot, but this could happen in friendships. It could happen in families as well. So use this template. Use these these tips to help you out in all facts of life. So the next one, and we were talking about this, be present. Remove distractions like phones. And Christopher, what else did you say?
So this is a huge one for me. Oh Lord, and all the notifications. The main thing is that I'm going to do here. So phone goes down. Sorry, I'm backwards here. Phone goes down. Watch is going to go down on top of that. And I'm really intentional to try and place that in between us. Reason being, again, is like I'm letting that person know that during this time, I'm not going to be distracted by something that I can easily avoid. I think it also does a point of like, I don't know if you've ever done this at a dinner table, people all of a sudden, like, it sets a standard, right? So like that's another place. Like if I'm like sitting down and I want to try and have a conversation, these are the things that will prevent that or distract me. I'm going to just put them forward and get them out of the way.
Yeah, Simon Sinek, which I know you're a fan of, he says when you have a phone, a lot of people, I used to do this, take it and would turn it upside down and face down onto the table. What that lets the other people know is, hey, my phone's not that important, but it's somewhat important. So this is something that I need to get better at, but taking it and putting it in a drawer and putting it out. So a lot of times when I'm having conversations, my computer's always open. And so I just start making noises and stuff. And I'll say, hey, I'm so sorry. Let me put this on Do Not Disturb. I want to let them know, like, hey, I don't care what's going on right here. I want to focus and make sure that we are making the best of our time. So be present, remove phones, let people know that you care. And also what we said earlier, schedule enough time. If you think you need 30 minutes, book 45 or 60. Like always book more because you don't want to rush it. Been there, done that. It's terrible. You don't want to rush it.
No, honestly, like reschedule the meeting, even in the moment. If you're like, man, you know what, we don't have enough here, give yourself that break.
Yeah. Christopher, be kind, approach with empathy and kindness. I feel like you do a very great job with empathy. Talk about being kind when you're when you're having these tough conversations.
Oh man, you're kind for saying that, and the only reason I'm able to do that is, again, I've received a lot of feedback throughout the time that I've got to work with people, both in a leadership aspect and shoulder to shoulder. Biggest thing for me is I want to try and remember, like, I have to tell myself, no matter what's going on, the likelihood is it's not personal. And being that it's not personal, what are the things that I can turn up in that situation? Usually it's going to be curiosity, kindness, understanding, and empathy. And I would say I took in a really a beautiful sermon this morning, and what their main point was that like, even though in the way that you talk about this meeting, literally rephrase it. Like in your mind, if you're like, oh, like first thing you wake up, oh, I got to have this challenging conversation, and I just don't think it's going to go very well, and I'm really concerned about it. Another way to frame that is, hey, I have an opportunity today to show up and create some clarity with someone that I care a lot about. Right?
That's
literally
good. That's
just
so good.
within the way that I change that, I have the goosebumps right now. Like within the way that I'm phrasing that, I'm already telling my brain, what are we doing when we're there? If I'm telling my brain this is going to be miserable and difficult, and this person never listens, and they always have an excuse, and all those things, I'm predicting the narrative of what goes on, right? Reframe it, and that's, I think, one of those things, again, like when you do that, kindness opens up, empathy opens up, awareness opens up.
Love that. And if you're following along on this, it's, if you truly want to connect with people, first you have to be kind. Have to be kind. I've seen so many, should I say, leaders, people that are in a leadership position, and they think they need to throw their weight around and like, you know, this is who I am, this is my title. I'm like, bro, nobody cares. Nobody cares. Like I want to, John Maxwell says, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And so to do that, you got to be kind and connect. The next one is take responsibility. So this is the secret sauce, I believe. This is the one that I've in the past, I've had to really focus and look and be like, all right, what can I take responsibility for in this situation? Well, I told them 3 times. Okay. Did we tell them the right way that they needed to be told? Like, hey, let's just say cleaning up back bar. Let's just use something like that. I think very few salons struggle with keeping a clean back bar. I'm joking. Like every freaking one of them I go into, that and like cancellation policy. I'm like, look, if I could have a system where everyone cleaned up after themselves and I had the perfect cancellation policy, dude, I would invite everybody to my private island. We would just, because I would make billions off of it. Yeah. But taking responsibility. So if someone's not cleaning up the back bar, it's 3 things. It's training, they're lazy, or they're incompetent. And so hopefully it's going to be the first one, which is training. So what have I communicated the way? Because everybody likes to be communicated different ways. So, okay, I've told them 3 times. Now I said it in a group setting. Maybe I need to sit them down one-on-one. And so this is something I learned from a mentor of mine, is when I sit down and say, hey, we've been dealing with like the back bar. I know you haven't cleaned up after yourself. Is there anything I can do to help serve you to accomplish this? Is there anything I can do? And so that is a line of humility of like, hey, if there's anything I can do, please let me know. But it also should be a check engine light for them to be like, no, I don't need anybody to help me do this. I just need to clean up after myself. So could I have communicated, followed up, connected, served them better in this situation? And so instead of, I think our pride gets in the way of this, and we're like, well, we told them this, and this has happened, and our emotions start flooding up.
Yep.
And you know, our emotions get high and our IQ gets low. So taking that responsibility lowers those emotions and goes in with a servant's heart. So taking responsibility is just key to having tough conversations.
I can't agree more with you there, Evan. And that's, again, you know, as many of the things as we've merged a lot of, you know, the ways that we look at things, a lot of our methods, a lot of our beliefs within stuff. This was one of them that I was so excited about, because I do think that a lot of people miss out in the responsibility piece. And it might be that, and again, I have no idea where it begins from, but I feel that so often in these situations, it's, you have a supervisor that's having a conversation, and the way that they look at the conversation, they're having a conversation to their staff employee, someone that is reporting to them. And in my mind, I actually look at it like, okay, if we understand the idea of responsibility and even break it down into a percentage point, right? What are we at least 1% responsible for? And at bare minimum, it's going to be communication. Right.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I've been working on for myself is I literally go in and I'm like, hey, you know what? This is a bit like punctuality. Punctuality is a bit of it can be kind of a soft subject for me personally. So I'm going to try and just immediately coming into this, I'm not taking whatever happened personal. What I'm here to look at today is we clearly have communicated something that we think is an expectation. We haven't done it well enough. And that's why we're having a conversation today. So please know that I'm walking into this conversation knowing that there's likely something that I'm going to discover that I could do better. In a factual one that I literally can say it within the last 72 hours. And also when they share with you something that you might be like, wow, organizationally, we really could have done better there. That's my moment. I literally be like, hey, I need to make a pause. There definitely is a portion in our training manual that we need to add this. Please give me a minute. I got to take a note here because we might not even be training people off go with this proper expectation. Another reason that I like to do that is you let whoever that person is that you're talking with, you let that experience that you're having. We're like, hey, mistakes are okay, but we hopefully never repeat the same bad mistake. And we always want to learn from them. So that's where I'm gathering it. And it lets them know oh, hey, they actually really care. Caring is kind.
Yes. That's great, man. Going on to the next one, always assume the best. Give the benefit of the doubt. Always assume the best. Here's a story that I'll tell because this one kind of makes sense. But sometimes this is one that I didn't stop and assume the best. So we switched up our time. Where I can't remember if we were open at 9, then we opened at 8. Yeah, we went to open earlier, or maybe it was 8:30 to 8. I can't remember. But our front desk person, she was solid. She was always there. She always took care of things. And I noticed when we changed the timing, she came in late that day. I'm like, okay, Leadership 101, I did not have a conversation with her that day. I should have, right? With tough conversations, you need to have them quickly. But I didn't. I was weak. And second day, she came in late. You thought I had a conversation? I didn't. Third day, she came in late again. Now I'm just like, what is going on? Now my emotions are high. I brought her in the office. I sat her down. She had a kid that was in middle school, and then she had a new baby that was in daycare. And I said, hey, I know she's been coming in late past 3 days, that's unacceptable. I need to know that you're going to be here on time. She's like, I totally understand. She said, I'm trying to figure out how, because my daycare doesn't open till this time and my son can't get dropped off. And I stopped her. I was like, hey, stop. I'm sorry. This is leadership fail. I take full responsibility. Let's figure out. And so I said, hey, for the next, I think we had 2 more days in the week. For the next 2 days, how about if I came in, got everything up and running? That way you would have time to figure it out. She said, that would be great. The next day she came back. She said, hey, I figured out they can actually take him earlier this day. So I just didn't have that clarity piece. It was just, if I would have known that, Christopher, that conversation would have been done so well. But here is something as a leadership lesson as well. When you mess up, own up to it. They already know. I was like, look, this is my fault. I'm not trying to be Mr. Perfect here. If I'm here more than 10 minutes in the salon, everybody knows that. So always assume the best in everyone. The next one is start with the why. Clarify the reason for the conversation. So I've heard this a lot. You have the sandwich method. You say something positive, and then you say the critique, and then you say something positive. So Christopher, hey, you're looking really, really sharp when you come into work. You are outdressing everyone. Hey, you've been coming in past 3 days late, so I need you to be here on time. Also, I've been looking at your numbers. You're crushing it. You're in our top 3 service providers here at Silver Salon. You walk out, you're like, what are you talking about? Well, so I was a top service provider. So it gets confusing. And so you can be kind and start with the why. So, hey, Christopher, hey, I just want to sit down with you. I've noticed that you've been coming in late the past 3 days. I'm here to serve you. I want you to be here on time. Let's talk about it. And so that was very kind. It showed that I was for you. So I would love to know what you guys do. Like, how do you handle those conversations as well?
I love this again, Evan, because like I feel like we're transcending the last like 3 or 4 years of my growth. So, that sandwich analogy, I think, is for people that need help with the uncomfortableness, right? And why? Because we're complimenting. Now, complimenting is amazing, but it does, like, even when you had said that, you gave me 2 things that were praise. One of them that was the issue. The one that was an issue was put in the middle of it, and we kind of skated right over it, right? One of them that I had received a fair amount of feedback on, and I would use this method. I'm like, gosh, I don't want to hurt your feelings. So I was pumping up that ego with anything I could find, right? And then by the time that I got to the part of the conversation where we actually needed to talk through something, at that point, they're like, I'm invaluable here. Like, any feedback that you give, it isn't going to matter. And that was one where what I found within some of the feedback was, hey, that was a little bit confusing, and it would have been better, I think, if you could have just been more direct. And that's where I love this again, Evan, because a past fail of mine is, and this is a hard leadership point. You want your team to love you. You want your team to like you, right? That's who we show up as. These conversations, what we're actually doing, we took a vow and an oath, depending on whether your title says owner, leader, manager, anything that has you working with other humans. When we signed up for that, we also signed on for, it is going to be our job to uphold those things. And when they're not upheld, it is our job to communicate to them, right? And
that's good.
For that responsibility part of it, hey, we need to have a conversation. There's an expectation that I think we have a misunderstanding to. In this example, it's around punctuality. Help me understand these last 3 days.
Yeah, that's really good.
Old me done that so poorly.
Dude, we all would have.
Yeah.
It's all learning. I think I threw up the wrong one. So start with the why, clarify the reason for the conversation. As we go into this next one, I would love for you in the chat to actually put in which one you feel like you could lean into a little bit more. So if you're looking at the document, you have the location, you have the be present, be kind, take responsibility, always assume the best, start with the why, and then the last one is be prepared. You cannot go in a tough conversation unprepared. Like, you have to have, this is what we're about to move into, how to start the conversation and how to end the conversation. When I worked at the church and you gave a welcome or you give any type of public speaking, they always tell you, you need to know how to start your talk and how to end it. A lot of people don't know how to end it. Everything in the middle. You know why they say that, Christopher? Because everything in the middle is up for grabs. Like, let's say a tough conversation. I know how I'm going to start it. I know how I'm going to end it. I can't control the middle for the most part.
Sure.
So being prepared, planning the conversation and its flow. You got to know how you're going to start the conversation, and you got to know when to end it. So using the tough conversation template, which we're going to move on to this one right here. This is going to help you plan. So we're going to focus the next section on being prepared. But I would love to know in the chat, I saw Mr. Scott Hauser and Garrett's in the comments. I would love to know which ones you you think you could lean into a little bit more on the guidelines. So as they're doing that, let's go ahead and jump into before the conversation. So we've got one comment here. Oh, Scott, you don't have the template. It's all right, man. If you are watching this on the website, like on our website, the link it sent you in Zoom, you should just scroll right below us and you'll see these images, and you should be able to click on them and download them straight to your computer. So we want you guys to have that. We'll say this at the end as well. So now we have a Refine Network app.
Woo!
So we built it for our Artist Academy. So when you purchase the Artist Academy to train your new staff, it's all in here. But here's another great thing. We're starting to add all our past webinars on here. So top 3 ways to boost your profit. You can go in there and watch it right here. So we're going to upload this onto our app. So if you need access to the documents, they'll be on there as well. You just go to the App Store on iOS and click on or search for the Refine Network. It will come up. Google, Android, if you have that, God bless you. But they take more time to go through the process. Don't know why. It's kind of shocking. Even the people that were building the app for us, they're like, it's kind of shocking. Because, Apple's all about security, and you would think it would take longer for them. But anyway, we'll keep moving on. We're not going to get on Google and Apple. But if you have an iOS, iPhone, an iPad, you can download the app on there. So you can go back and watch all our past webinars. We're in the process of doing that. Here's the thing. Christopher and I are doing all the work right now. So we say we are doing it. We are doing it. So let's jump into the template. Before the conversation, show love, see the potential, and take responsibility. So there's 3 questions. The first one is, do I genuinely love this person? Do I genuinely love this person? Christopher, if I go into a conversation and I don't love this person, I don't have any respect, trust, anything like that, it's going to come off a little aggressive, if not a lot aggressive. So I got to write down, do I genuinely love this person? Write out how you show them love. So I'm like, yeah, I love them. Okay. Have you shown them? When's the last time you just went by and said, hey, you're doing a great job here? Or when's the last time you went to Starbucks and got them something? When's the last time? So that you have to, if you love the person, you got to write out how you show them. The next one is, do I see them as a better version of themselves on the other side of this conversation? I haven't went in and been like, you know what? I don't think I'm going to see them as a better conversation or a better person on the other side of this. Yeah. Now they could be leaving our company after I have this conversation. There's people that have left our company who are a better version of themselves. They found a place that worked for them. They found a different career. They moved and found, I'm not going to sit here and be selfish and be like, you can only flourish under Silver Salon. If so, we'd have Silver Salons everywhere. So do I see them as a better version of themselves on the other side of this? And the way I look back at that is having tough conversations that people had with me. I became a better version of myself after those conversations. I recently had a tough conversation. Somebody had a tough conversation with me. And it was outside of our organization. And I told them, I said, you know what? You've been thinking about this for a while, haven't you? They're like, yeah. Like, it's been eating you up, hasn't it? They're like, yeah. I was like, it's okay. Like, life is about challenges and growing and being uncomfortable. And I'm here for it. I signed up for it. So do you see them as a better version of themselves on the other side? And then the last one is, what can I take responsibility for in this situation? What can I take responsibility for? It goes back to the guidelines. Hey, what could I have done better? Christopher, anything to add to that?
No, it's such a masterclass. I love what it's priming here, and I love the thoughtfulness of it. The part I think that's always so beautiful is when in a leadership space, there's so much room for assumption and misunderstanding. And when you begin, I think, with those, at least the first 2 keys there, we're largely literally thinking about, again, like, we're setting intentionality. How do I see you? Right. And then, as well as I'm thinking about this, like, it creates such a good primer, whether or not, like, hey, I just saw one of our team who I've got to spend time with for over 10 years now, right? And she just drove in the lot as we were talking. And like, as we were going over this one, I would literally say like, hey, in these 10 years, you've shown me through your growth, not only so many different ways of how to be successful within what we do, but you've also done so in a way that you've helped us grow as an organization. Thank you so much for showing up in the way that you do. Right? Like, it's so easy to do. And again, imagine being like, by bringing that energy and bringing that, like that gratitude and that thankfulness into it, it's not as tough now because we've lightened some of that emotional load because we care, right? Like, we wouldn't be doing this if we didn't care. Yeah. I love it.
Yeah. So that's before the conversation. And I love that you said this, it's putting the lens on them, or putting the spotlight on them and how we can serve them. When our pride gets in the way, it's like, I'm focusing on me and how you can do better.
Yeah, that's great.
So during the conversation, if you actually print these out, you can actually write this down. I will tell them, hey, I'm going to take notes during this conversation because I want to get clarity, and I want to have things that we can revert back to. Yep. So observe the body language, take notes. You know, like if you start to say things and they do this, it's like, oh, you struck a nerve. Or if they're uninterested. Oh, say that word for me. Uninterested. There we go.
I think that's good.
Yeah, I'm not editing that out. So when you start to see that body language and you start to see them get defensive, you've hit a nerve. Now, on the flip side, if you're the one having the tough conversation talked to, we've told our team this. If you start to get defensive while somebody's talking, having a tough conversation, and I get defensive, I need to be aware to be like, whoa, why am I getting defensive? They're hitting a chord, like they're hitting a nerve that's like, maybe I need to lean into this, even though I don't like it. So I'm going to observe their body language. I've had a few tough conversations where they were not interested, could care less, and at that time, I've lost either a lot of trust, respect, a little bit of both. Their passion might be gone, and at that point, I'm like, why work here? Like, your life is way too short. I want you to be the best version of yourself.
Yeah. You know, Evan, I wanted to say something to this point. You hit on it earlier, and I think it really it's a point worth bringing up. If you find yourself, I mean, you know, we go and we do this work, right? And all of a sudden, what this is likely going to do, everyone that's on right now, I know that you have a human that's up in your brain right now that you need to have a crucial conversation with, right? And the reality is, the reason that it's going to be difficult for you to kick it off is likely that there's been a fair amount of time that's come in between. Also, for everyone, the cameras are reversed. So if you see me trying to search for where to put my hands, just novice over here. That's it. But the part that I wanted to share to Evan, you're so kind. The part I wanted to share to within this point of it is when we come onto this work, you're likely going to start to think about it like, wow, I have all kinds of tough conversations that I've been sitting on. This is where you want to think this through, right? The fairness of being able to bring up something that you've been withholding, that is even more your responsibility. And there's a cleanup there. Now, the part where you'll be able to get to, though, is when you feel these things in the moment. We have it as a 24 or 72 in our company. You have 24 hours to do something with it. If you don't do something with it, we encourage you to let it go because it actually doesn't matter. If it wasn't a big enough issue that you can bring it up to the person and you're going to choose to withhold it, I can speak as a person that has a degree in this. Withholding leads to resentment. Resentment leads to relationship damage, right?
Oh, say that again.
It was a good one, right?
Say it again. You said resentment.
So when we wait to have the conversation, we withhold. When we withhold, that's our conscious choice. What also happens during that, we're holding on to this thing that isn't ideal, and it's something that clearly, like, we're like, gosh, that's not okay, right? And so from the moment that it happens, to the moment that you think to have the conversation, to the moment that you actually have had the conversation, if there's a bunch of time that's gone through there, you actually also then have a thing to take responsibility for. What that might look like is, hey, Evan, I got to clear this. And it's something from in the past, but it's just weighing on me. But I want to bring it up to you and say, I'm taking the responsibility that I should have said something about this a long time ago. And I'm hoping that we can just talk it through, because it is something that's starting to eat at me. And my fear is that I care about this relationship. I don't want it to get to a resentful space.
That's so good. So good. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, you inspired it, man. The simply said too, the timeline of speed from the moment that you realize it to the moment that you take action, this whole conversation will be much easier because it's fresh for everybody.
Yeah, I love what you said about the 2472. We are developing, I think we're going to be calling it our 11 keys to success here at Silver Salon. And we have the Silver 24. So it's still in like early stages, but same thing, like 24 hours, you need to talk to someone. If a guest calls and they need response back, like it's 24 hours, like whatever it is, 24. So I love that you guys have that too, which is not shocking at all. Moving into the post conversation. So evaluate the communication effectiveness and set up follow-up steps. So I think this is one of the biggest things, the second one. So the first one is, how well did I communicate in the meeting? How well do I think that I communicated in the meeting? And then the second is, what are the next steps and follow-up dates? And that's so, so important. So when I ask them, I don't think about what are their, like, oh, here's your next steps. First, you're going to do this. Second, you're going to, no. Their next steps are going to be what they come up with. Because Christopher, you tell me my next steps versus me creating my next steps. Which one am I more bought into?
I would say 99 to 100% on your side of it.
Yeah, the ones I came up with.
Yes.
And I know myself better than you do, you know?
Yes.
So yes, I'm going to say, hey, and I've used this verbiage, what are some guardrails we are going to put up so we don't get back to where we are now? So you don't like where you are, because that's the first thing. It's like if they're in a negative mind space or something, I got to figure out, do they like being there? Some people like to be there. If they don't, are you willing to get out of that hole? And if you are, what are some guardrails we're going to put around that hole so you don't get back in it? And so what are your next steps? And then follow-up dates. So if it's a Thursday, I'm going to say, hey, let's touch base on Tuesday at 2 p.m. Are you good at that? Cool. Tuesday. Now, if it's something like, hey, this is what's going on in the company, basically we need it to stop. Let's do, I want to meet with you once a week for 6 weeks to make sure, hey, are you in the right headspace? Are you doing your next steps? Whatnot. So always let them come up with their next steps, and then you pick the follow-up dates of when you're going to meet. And you might just say, hey, we're going to meet every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Or you might say, let's meet Tuesday at 2 p.m., kind of see where they are. And then you might need to schedule out one the next week. But don't just be like, okay, cool, everything's back to normal. Very few times as it can be resolved in a few days. Yeah. Most of the time it's like, hey, if it's a behavior thing, I want to see long-term, behavior changes. So that's the tough conversation template: before the conversation, after, or before, during, and after. The next one is we're going to go into which is going to be the orange one, how to open a tough conversation. So there's 3 elements of the opener, and that is, hang on, why is that still up there? There we go. All right. So there's 3 elements for the opener, and that's, you want to thank them for coming to to the meeting. So Christopher, if I'm having a tough conversation with you, you're going to sit down and be like, hey, thanks so much for meeting with me. Especially if they're not like working and they come in, like that's kind of a big deal. So, hey, thanks for meeting with us. Again, why you brought them to the meeting. So, and then the next one is let them know you're here to help. So what that would look like, I actually have a script here that you can steal. So Christopher, I'm gonna use this for you. Thank you for meeting with me today, Christopher. I wanted to connect with you because lately I've seen that you've been coming in late. This is unlike you and it's affecting our culture. I know this is not your intention. We want you to know we love you and we want the best for you and we're here to help. So you notice I say, I know that's not your intention, because a lot of time people do things, including myself, where I say something, but it comes off a different way. They're like, hey, I know this wasn't your intention, but how you said that was kind of hurt one of our staff. One of the reasons is our team on one day got here later than they should have, and one of our staff members texted in and said, hey, my husband, he's a firefighter. He had a last minute call, so I'm gonna be a few minutes late. It's like, fine, get it. Your husband's, saving the world. And so they get here. Well, everybody else was late as well. And so I said, hey guys, we cannot be late. We have to get this salon up and running. If we're gonna make an impact in people's lives, we're gonna have to be here. And so someone came up to me afterwards and said, hey, you might want to go talk to the staff member who texted in that she was going to be late because she might feel like that was an attack on her. I was like, she said, I know that wasn't your intention. So I went to her and she was like, no, I didn't even think that. I was like, well, you're totally okay. So just having that clarity, but use this script. This is unlike you. Like if you've been coming in late or coming in on time or early for a couple of years, then you start coming in late. I'm like, what's going on? And it could be car trouble. It could be, your sister's having to use the car because she wrecked hers and, her leg is all tore up and you just don't know. But if we knew that, we'll be like, dude, we'll come pick you up, Yep. Christopher, with the script, is there anything that you would add to that?
No, the best part about this is I think it gives really, really good guidelines to set up an example of how to keep this efficient, right? Again, I'm so thankful. I just find myself as we're talking through this, I'm like, oh, that thing from 4 years ago, gosh, this is where I've grown because I never would have done that, right? Currently I wouldn't do that, right? No, I think it's beautiful. And I think the last part of what you were talking about, there's intention and then there's impact. As an example, someone being late, hey, I know that this wasn't your intention. The reality is in your role, when you show up late, if like a coordinator for us, if you show up late, everyone's opening experience that day, all of our team, all of our clients are impacted by it. And because there's that large of an impact, that's why we're having a conversation. Can you help me understand what's going on?
Yeah.
I love that intention and impact though.
Yeah. Yeah. And it how you do this script, it's going to be a part of your vision of your company of like, hey, these are the rules. This is the vision that we've casted. Yep. Another thing that I wanted to mention is, why people have such a tough, they struggle with tough conversations? It's because they don't practice them. They don't practice them. So at the bottom, it says practice with a friend. The more, would you say, well, you've already said this, and I've said this too. We're better at tough conversations today than we were 10 years ago, right?
Undoubtedly, yes.
Yeah, because we've had more of them. We know we've had the ones that went bad, and you're like, okay, not going to do that. We were actually letting one go years ago, and I asked her how I could be a better leader. That's not a good time to ask somebody when you're letting them go, like, hey, what could I have done to lead you better? So I learned when somebody's not in a good headspace and you're actually letting them go, maybe we shouldn't ask them, how can I become a better leader at that point?
No. I might have got you froze, but I can jump in here for a minute too.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, there we
Yeah,
go.
something was going on. Yours was swirling as well. So it's saying my Wi-Fi connection is unstable. Dude, the router's right there.
Good Lord.
I can literally see it. But opening, and then we're going to jump into closing. So ask them what are their action steps, schedule a future date to follow up, and then give a quick recap of the meeting. That's why you want to take notes. So here's a script. Again, Christopher, thank you so much for meeting with me today. What are some of your next steps out of today's conversation so we do not get back in the same situation? If you notice in parentheses, I said, let them respond. That's the worst when it comes to me doing a tough conversation. I don't like awkward silence. So I'll start to jump in and talk. So I've learned to shut up. Yeah, let them respond. I wanted to put shut up, but I just put let them respond. Let's schedule a quick meeting next week to touch base to see how you are doing. Would blank date and time work for you? And just to recap, your 3 action items are: you're going to wake up early, you're going to lay out your clothes the night before, and you're going to go ahead and meal prep your breakfast for the entire week. I can't wait to see your progress over the next week. If there's anything I can do to support you, please let me know. Now, when we go through it like that, the tough conversation doesn't seem that bad. And a lot of times in our head, the tough conversation is way bigger than it in reality it is. So when you go into a tough conversation, are you one of those people that go through, I don't want to say wing it, but kind of like, hey, I can only control so much? Or are you going through?
Yeah, I think it clicked out again, but I can answer it, I think, just based on where your question was at. Today, I would say in the very beginning of it, I likely was very much more in my head about it than what I was prepping and planning. Today, I literally, I will go in with notes. I always just use the notes app. If there's ever a meeting, and I always go in with an agenda. One of the things I've even started to do in that agenda, like I'll think about through, I'm like, okay, let's say it's punctuality, right? I literally will put in the meeting if I'm like, okay, Chris, like, how are we going to handle excuses today, right? How are we going to listen to excuses today?
That's good.
Right? Like I'll literally, like, if I know that there might be the potential for something to get challenging, I will put that in my notes for the meeting, because then I can always say, okay, if I either get distracted or if I feel myself get heightened or triggered or something like that, I use those notes to go back to, because likely I've already hit it. Like, all right, Chris, you know that excuses within punctuality, you don't have a lot of patience for them. Deploy patience with excuses, right? Non-verbally, like these are all things. And Evan, this is so funny because I will agree with you. I get tasked with it often, and it is something that I've heard the feedback in some situations are like, how do you do that? Who taught you how to do that? It's like I've had a lot of difficult conversations. I also will be very, very transparent, honest. If you do these type of conversations a lot, you also have to remember that there isn't an expectation that you get 100 out of 100 in every single one of them. Why? Because it's a conversation. And also why? Because it's a difficult point. And that's where, when you have systems like this, it keeps it so much tighter. Because at the end of it, like if I have an emotional weight that I'm wearing at the end of it, that's something for me that I have to figure out. Now, if this planning has helped me be a lot more present with that person, a lot more clear, and they got the point, and that was actually the reason that we're sitting down, I've actually checked off all of the things that would have been my intentions, and energetically, I've also kept myself in a better place.
That's awesome. Yeah, it keeps your emotions in check. And it's like, all right, let's stick to the facts.
Yeah.
This is what we're going to do. Yeah. And rinse and repeat. And, the care, it's especially with salon owners, I haven't met much that are like, yeah, I just don't care about this person. They're like, I care about this person so much. I feel like I've given them enough rope. I need this to kind of bring it back towards back towards me, or it's like, okay, let's have a conversation where I can care about you, but we can basically hold you accountable.
Yeah.
And we can move forward as well. So that was really great. Hey, the self eval. I know we got 6 minutes. We're going to go through this fairly quick. It's simple. If you download this, you're going to see it. But the self eval is for you to reflect on yourself. So this is something that you're going to keep. You can file it. If it's like 1980, you can put it in the filing cabinet, or you can take a picture of it and put it in your iCloud file or Google Drive, whatever it is. But the first one is, did the conversation go the way you wanted it to? What would you have done differently? So you know what? I was talking to Christopher and I said this, and I shouldn't have said that word. You know, you might have been like, hey, I'm especially when it comes to anxiety and depression, I could have said something that maybe was a little off color. God, I wish I wouldn't have said that. So I'd make note of that. The next one, was there anything that came up in the conversation that surprised you? That might be like, hey, I found out that Christopher was going through X, Y, and Z. And how did I react? Did I go, God almighty, or I was like, okay, all right, stay calm. As a leader, you want to be the calmest person in the room. Did I lead with integrity? And did the other person know that I want the best for them? What are ways that I showed this? What are ways that I show this? So I got to have realistic ways I showed them that I care for them. And did I lead with integrity? If I say I cared for them, have I shown them that I cared for them before that meeting? And then the last one is, what did you learn about yourself as a communicator? I think that's, we're always going to learn something new about us, because communication is something that we're always evolving and changing. I talk way different than I did when I was 20. Thank God.
Massively,
yeah, massively. So I know we got 4 minutes. Y'all any questions? Y'all can put them in the chat. I would love to see those. To wrap up, a couple of things. We do have the Refine Network app where you can find all these webinars that we're adding them to that. If you are new, like say you're going to subscribe and create an account on the Refine Network today, you might not have those as of right now. But if you already created an account, if you got an email to join this webinar that we're doing live, you already have an account, so you can go in and see those. Another thing, Artist Academy, we're crossing the finish line on it. I mean, we are so freaking close. It's looking beautiful. Our pre-orders have it, and it has quizzes in it. It has videos, and it has the summary in it. So it's looking really, really great. Our Salon Leaders Retreat, we have one in September and October. September is here in South Carolina. The one in Wisconsin is up there in Gen 11, October 5th through 7th. And Christopher, I know we got 3 minutes. Let's see. Garrett says, I think confidentiality is a key point. That is so true. And I need to add that into this, because if I have a tough conversation with Christopher and then he's going through a tough time, and then I go around the whole office and start talking to everyone about it. Now, I will talk to our lead team about it if I feel like it needs to be discussed. But if it's something very private, I will let our lead team know, like, hey, we're handling it. I'm just going through a tough time. So yes, thanks for, I'm gonna add that in, confidentiality. Christopher, I would love for the next couple of minutes, you talk about just what you've been up to. Like this morning, you're working with a salon in Denver. You're working, the one in Connecticut. Tomorrow you're working with the one in Denver. What you're doing with them.
Yeah, there's multiple. Right now, simply said, I just want to acknowledge all the salons and salon owners that we're working with. When Evan and I started out with, and some of the things that we're doing on these pricing model side of it, the amount of learning that we've had by both having industry background and then utilizing AI, the things that we're doing are really revolutionary. And what I want to say is, to give you an idea, pricing is something that is such an art, and everyone has an explanation to it. One of the things that we've been doing is we are actually studying where is your business. We're using AI to help us get a cost of living index. And what we've been able to do is not only are we building price points for people to live in the communities that they're doing their craft and their passion in, we're also though making sure that within their pricing system, when someone gets a promotion, it's actually a promotion. Shocker, right? The average right now, if inflation is 8% and you raised your prices by 3%, is that a raise? Trick question, right? So it's the things that we're doing. When I just say a boilerplate, in the proudness of it is, we're going through in creating price points and wages for people to be able to not only live in their community, but to thrive in their community. And the reason that I want to celebrate these owners are across the board, all the way down to things like gender pay gaps and stuff like that. We're taking all of these data points into consideration as we look at how to properly price your brand, and then how to build a level system so that your team and you can have legacy within that team and within the commission model of the salon. So I'm having a ton of fun and learning so much. So incredibly thankful for the salons I'm getting to spend time with right now. If you're curious about this, I'll just say this literally is changing lives. And it's also even more so changing careers. If you're curious, I'd love to start the conversation with you. We're having
in full transparency, we're implementing. So we have structure and systems, but what Christopher has created, we're implementing those into our company, and it's just like we're just undercharging. And here's the thing that we'll end on this: is a lot of times salons, they go up on their prices, or they're priced a certain way, and if you ask them why is it priced that way, they couldn't tell you. And so you have come up with a formula that you throw in the cost of foils, the cost of color, and it's all broke down. So if a guest, let's just say you had a guest, it's like, why is it this price? You could literally break it down and show them in a very caring way, so that people can actually make a good living doing hair and color, which, you know, a lot of people are doing that, and we just want to help people keep being successful. So, hey, everyone, thank you for joining today. Always a pleasure to do these webinars and interact with you guys. Christopher, thanks for being awesome, and we'll see you in the August rally or webinar. We'll send out more details on that. All right, y'all have a great day.
Happy Monday.